think it's days like today that are really, kind of paramount to our season. We don't have this opportunity very often, as you mentioned, and it's nice to be able to go out and make laps. And William's been able to go do some tests this year with his rookie status to be able to learn a lot of really valuable things that ultimately were what propelled us to the win at Phoenix, I really believe. But on the flip side of that is from a driver's standpoint, to be able to look at the screen and see kind of the data that we're collecting and understand how the changes are actually helping us that we're making, I think is really important. So really proud of our guys. We've had a great season up to this point already, but obviously every lap that we make, we're learning and something new is coming up. And here at the test today was no different than that. We learned a lot throughout the course of the day, and a lot of things to go back and kind of comb through and see where we're at. So really happy that we had the opportunity to come here today.
William, how important is it to have a teammate that you can kind of lean on when you have these test sessions to be able to go out there and exchange some information back and forth with as you're looking ahead to the race here at Charlotte and the rest of the season?
Yeah, it's really helpful just for data-wise. I mean, we don't get data during the actual weekend of the race, so when you're talking about where you're entering the corner or what sign you're looking at on the wall or anything like that, I mean, it's hard to really guess where that is in someone's visual perspective. So it's good when we can see that on paper and also just be able to adjust on the car, kind of go through changes in a more progressive period and not have just 45 minutes to throw things at it. So it's good for us. I think we've got some things to work on, and I think we have a pretty good foundation coming back.
It's good to know at almost 200 miles an hour that you're just reading the billboards as you're cruising around the speedway.
It is funny. He did bring up a good point. We talk a lot after practice, and he'll say, I looked at the sign on the inside of the wall, and I said, well, mine was on the outside of the wall, and we typically are about the same spot. We're just looking at totally different things. So hopefully y'all never move the signs, because if you ever change the signs on race weekend, we're all screwed, just so you know.
All right, we'll start over here with Woody King.
I wanted to ask both of you guys about the dynamic of stage racing at a super speedway coming up. You've only done that once this year versus doing it most recently in a couple of short tracks. How is the dynamic differently when you stage race at a super speedway?
You made it past the end of the first stage at Daytona, didn't you?
Yeah. I think I crashed like 4 or 5 times at Daytona, but I still made it to the finish. So, our stage finishes, I don't think were too great at Daytona. So it's a better question probably for him.
No, I got wrecked at Daytona on lap 29, coming to the end of the first stage. I'm not a big fan of it at Daytona Talladega yet, but I love it everywhere else. Hopefully we can change that this weekend. But I think anytime you can ramp up the energy, anytime you can change kind of the dynamic of the race as far as what's at stake. I mean, obviously we all want to be a victory lane, we want to win the race, and that's the ultimate goal. But now it forces you to be at 100%, 110% really, from lap 1 until the end of the race. And I think that's something that not that we've never raced it at all out speeds, but sometimes I think your best races are the ones where you left a little bit in the tank for the end of the race. You can't do that anymore. So it really changes, how we race and how we race each other, and ultimately how these races are ended.
Go to Jacob.
She snuck up on me over here. Jacob Silver, Performance Motorsports Network. William, you have come through these gates a bunch, all the way back to the start when you were running on the quarter mile out front. I know you got one truck race under your belt here last year, but you're driving for Junior. You're back under you're under contract to Hendrick Motorsports. What's the emotion now coming home, coming in this racetrack, getting ready for 300 miles at the end of the month, as opposed to when you were starting out here running the short track?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could tell you that it was a lot different, but I still had the same nerves when I was, running legend cars. But yeah, I mean, the stakes are definitely higher the more that I come here and try and succeed. And last year was good. At least we got to race during the daytime to see what the track was like and just understand what this place is like during the day. So because it's a lot different than once it cools off. So a lot different than the quarter mile. You pass it in about probably half a second versus 15 seconds, but yeah, it's fun just coming here. It's an easy drive, and it's always cool just kind of waking up and going to the racetrack like this.
And
That was like 4 years ago.
he's not that old yet, Justin.
No, he's not.
And for both of you, some guy who's your boss announced the other day he's retiring at the end of the year. Thoughts, obviously he's meant a lot to both of your careers, but does it up the ante now? You know, go out and try to make this special in his last year at the Cup level?
You know, I think from my standpoint, I don't know that we can do anything different to make his last year any different on the Cup side, because I really strongly feel like that you know, one chapter may be closing, but you know, it's just opening up a whole bunch of new chapters. And you know, I know how passionate Dale is on about junior motorsports and about making sure that you know, the young drivers that he wants to help, you know, cultivate and move forward. That's a big deal to him. And so for me, you know, I'm honored to be driving for Dale Jr. You know, I love the guy to death. He's a great boss. He's a great friend. Proud of what he's accomplished on the Cup side. I mean, I think that, you know, you look at the stats and they're amazing. I mean, you know, for anybody, they're amazing. And you know, Dale's just a very humble, nice guy, and somebody you love being around. So I'm excited for him and whatever the next chapter is. But at the end of the day, I know that this is not his last foray with what we're doing. I know he's going to be around for many years to come.
Yeah, I think it's really special for us to, I think we're 1, 2, 3 in points right now, so it's just good to hopefully have a good year for him. I know he's going to be around on the ownership side for many years, but it'd be cool to hopefully get a championship, one of the 3 of us or 4 of us, and just see what happens. I think it's pretty neat. Hopefully he can close out the year really strong on the Cup side, and you know, I think I'll be asking him for some tips for Talladega and Daytona. He's just a mastermind at those places, so hopefully we can have a good run there too.
All right, we'll go to Phil, we'll come to Kenny, and then up front to Stan.
William, what's been the biggest adjustment to this level for you in these first couple months? And then Justin, if you could kind of assess William's first few months in this series.
I'd say the biggest adjustment is probably the stages. You know, that would be the same in the truck, but I think that, you know, especially as a rookie, that first run of the race is not, you don't really know what to expect, and you're still adjusting on your car to get it to where you want it to be. So, you know, now those are points that are, you know, if you don't get those points, it's important. So, just trying to get after it in the first couple stages, get ourselves in position to get those points, and that's probably the biggest adjustment. The competition, being with a new team, probably being with a new team would be second, and just working through you know, the communication side.
I think William's done a great job. I mean, obviously, you look at what he's accomplished to this point, albeit not a long duration, but a lot of stats and a lot of really good stats. And you know, coming in, he's asked a lot of great questions and been very open to learning. And you know, you look at, there's a lot of weeks that you know, he's been kind of the flagship for our company, you know, especially the mile and a half. He's been lights out, and so you know, really happy to see the progression that they've made. I mean, obviously, like I said, he was a big help at Phoenix for us. You know, he's been a big help for us throughout the course of the year. As a company, we're really good at leaning on each other. All the crew chiefs get along really well together. They ride the racetrack each and every week together. And so to have kind of some of that continuity between all 4 of us, and to have those relationships, I think is really big. And you talked about communication. I mean, it's not just William that's working on that. I mean, really all of us are striving to be better with that. And I think as we have 4 drivers that have equal goals and equal mindsets, it really helps the organization as a whole. And so I'm very, very impressed with what William's done, and obviously super bright career, and proud to have him as a teammate.
Kenny Bruce with NASCAR.com. Speaking of what William has done, the end of the Richmond race, the incident with Daniel, he seemed a little bit upset that maybe you didn't reach out to him or something after that. Can you kind of talk about what actually happened there to cause that?
Yeah. So you couldn't see the replay the right way, but we got hit from behind, and that sent us up into him. So just not a good situation. You never want to be in a situation like that. And I think you know, Daniel and I got a chance to talk, which was good. And you know, really we were just following each other into the corner, just double file. Everyone's jockeying for a restart, and we got nudged and hit into him, and that ruined our day too. So not a good situation, but you know, hopefully we can rebound from that for Talladega, and it's going to be a totally different environment there, and we'll just see what happens.
Stan Creekmore with Outside the Box. Justin, you made the comment in your first answer about you all were looking at different lines as you raced down the track. There was a time in this sport when looking at lines was critical to how someone ran. Nowadays, you all have tons of data and video and such. How important is all of that information to you being a better driver at a younger age?
Well, I mean, I think it goes even further than that. I mean, you know, the amount of technology that we have today is incredible. Like you said, I mean, the amount of video footage that I watch is probably not healthy, to be honest with you, but it's good to learn from. You know, we have iRacing now. You know, that is visually, I think, is the single-handedly the biggest tool that we can use to be able to go out there and visually see what's going on in the racetracks. Unless you have a full motion simulator, it's sometimes hard to kind of get that feel from what you're actually feeling inside the car. But you know, I don't think the day of being, you know, I was fortunate I got to start racing when I was 5 years old, and I've been racing, you know, ever since. I don't know that day is still here. I think you know, William obviously has proven that you can come in, start your racing career at a later day and time, and be equally as successful. I think that there's so much information out there nowadays that you know, it's literally comes down to what you want to spend time-wise and effort-wise and putting into it. Now, don't get me wrong, there's still that seat of the pants feeling, you know, understanding, you know, why you would go to the middle or the top on one lap versus the bottom. You know, there's still a lot of things that are on the fly, you know, decisions, but really the amount of information that you learn, you know, kind of outside of the racetrack is super important. And I think that's why it makes days like today so much more important. Because when I'm looking at a video from last year, well, we had a different aero package last year. We had a different this or a different that last year. You know, technology has changed since we were here last. So I'm looking at stuff that literally, as I pull into the garage area, it's coming off the race car, and it's helping me with what we're doing today. And I think that's something that you can't replicate.
Yeah, I think that's you know, the preparation is so important nowadays. I mean, you can't show up to the racetrack and not understand or know what happened in the last race, or know what you, even if you're on the same team, know what you guys fought in the last race. So you know, that stuff's really important. iRacing is kind of made that, you know, made us capable of doing something during the week and figure out, you know, what line we need to run at a certain track and understand where the bumps are and what those things do. And also it gives us a chance to race against our competitors, and, you know, they've got different races on there. You can go on and race against Justin or race against, you know, Josh Berry or any of those guys. So there's a lot of tools to use, and if you don't use them, you're not going to be ready for the racetrack. And I think with the rookies that I'm seeing, you know, Cole Custer, Daniel, those guys are ready and prepared, and we're able to run, I guess, better than rookies in the past.
Daniel.
Daniel McFadden with NBC Sports. Justin, first, were you satisfied with the clarification on the rules between the caution flag and the caution lights from the end of Richmond? And also, you're enjoying your most success in a small amount of time in a while now in NASCAR. How are you feeling just about yourself as a driver and your talents right now?
Well, I'll be honest with you, post-race, looking back at the replay of the race, I unloaded on an official that really had no idea what I was even talking about. He didn't even know that there was a caution at the end of the race, I don't think. His eyes were like the size of softballs. And to be honest with you, I really didn't care that he didn't know what I was talking about. I just needed to say what I had to say and get it out, you know, get off my chest. But, you know, at the end of the day, you know, I know that as we evolve and as we change, there are going to be circumstances that are going to not work with every scenario, right? You know, I think for me, the challenge that I had was there was so many blunders, and not necessarily just on any one person's part. There was so many things at the end of that race last week that came down, and you go, man, if this would have gone that much different, the outcome would have been completely changed. And I think for me, that's what was the most frustrating, is it took everything happening the way that it happened, you know, to ultimately be the way that it was. I should have been really happy. I mean, you know, we finished second. We had a great day. We led a career high per race amount of laps. Xfinity Series Dash for Dash. I mean, huge thank you to Xfinity for what they do for our sport. I mean, that was huge. And we left probably as disappointed as I've been in many years. But I think that goes along to what your second part of the question was. You know, we've obviously been running a lot better. We've had success this year. We had the win at Phoenix. You know, coming off of the Cup Series and the situation and the hand that we were dealt, you know, I wasn't sure, to be honest with you, if I was ever even going to race again, you know, after 2015 or 2016. So the fact that I even had that opportunity at the end of 2015, I guess, the fact that I even had that opportunity again was huge for me, and trying to make the most of it. And as I said, you know, being prepared. I think, you know, I spent last year really trying to just get my head back in the game. You know, there was a lot of days where 2 years ago where I spent wondering why I still come to the racetrack every week. And last year, you know, it took kind of a lot of effort to really get back into the game and to push myself to the racetrack every week and be competitive. And we're fortunate enough to do that. We ended the season strong. We came into this year strong, and it's been really good. But the other part of that is our race team at Junior Motorsports is amazing. I mean, what we do with the resources that we have, the people that we have. I mean, our guys. I literally, you know, I talk to our guys, and you know, I'll leave at 6 or 7 o'clock at night, and I'll see them the next day, and they're like, yeah, we were here for another 2 hours. You know, and it's like, if they have families, they're traveling, it's just crazy the amount of effort and time they're putting into it right now, and I think that's a testament to the hard work and effort they're putting into it is showing up on the racetrack.
Thank you. Jason.
Hey guys, Jason Brown, Spectrum News. Question for both of you. I'll start with William. The fact that there's been still a lot of Cup guys when they're out there, you know, on your Xfinity races, and they're coming away with the checkered flag. You both have had great success this year, 2-3 in the points. But William, I'll just start with you because, you know, obviously you're still new to it, but can it still be somewhat frustrating, even though you're up there in the points, but maybe you're not seeing the amount of stage wins or even race wins that you like to see? You know, is it hard sometimes to gauge, I guess, your success, so to speak? And then after you, if Justin could comment on that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not really hard just because you know how much time those guys have at the racetracks and the knowledge and everything. So anytime you can run with them on a restart or anything is a positive. And I think, you know, one positive was California. I think we finished 5th and able to kind of run within them at times. Not able to really stay up there, but I think, you know, we're getting there, and I think we're continuing to evolve, and I'm learning more. And I think on the short tracks, it's just hard to keep up with Justin. I think we've been trying to learn what he's doing and line wise and everything to keep up with him at Phoenix and Richmond and Bristol. So just kind of different challenges every week, but just trying to adapt to it.
I think my point of view is, you know, I've been very adamant that I like the Cup guys in the race because I do think we learn from them. I think they learn from us. You know, being in the Cup Series for a couple of years, it's really not that much different. You know, it's just different numbers and different names on the door. But you race at 100% of whatever your car will give you, and yeah, you might race against different cars. You might not. You know, depending on. I feel like the 18, 19, and the 20 on those series are extremely competitive. So, you know, if you go to Cup, you're going to race against those guys. You know, there's obviously other cars and drivers that don't come down, but for the most part, I feel like right now the strength of the Xfinity Series drivers and teams is really, really good. You know, last week, unfortunately, had it not come down to the end of the race, an Xfinity Series regular was going to win, whether it was Elliott or myself, or I think that third was still an Xfinity Series regular. So, you know, had it not come down to a caution, the Cup guys weren't even a factor, you know. And I think that's probably the hardest part for me is that Kyle did win, but he was nowhere even close to winning the race had it not come down to the way that it finished. So, you know, I think it's good when you can have days like that. I think when you outrun those guys and you're pushing and you have days that are good, I think you have to take solace in that. And the days that you're getting beat by them, you just got to know that they got a lot more laps on the racetrack that weekend than you do, and you got to keep working and work harder. And when we go back to these places again a second time, you got to work harder to try and beat them.
I think that wraps up our availability for the day. Guys, as always, we appreciate the time.
Appreciate it.